So we are continuing with the ACT Aspire math review. That'll be basically all day, every day until the actual test, which is scheduled for April 10th. And yes, even if you're not a freshman, you are required to still participate in the review and everything you're assigned. I'm gonna try not to make it necessarily to where you're just doing one thing the entire hour. It will kind of seem like that today and tomorrow, but after that, it'll be more like centers where you're maybe doing one thing for 20 minutes, another thing for 20 minutes, and another thing for 20 minutes. IXL will be a center in that case. We're using the data from IXL to really tailor it to you and making sure you're learning skills that you need to learn, not that like necessarily the person next to you might be at a different level. So that's why we did the diagnostic test, even though for some people it was pretty tedious. That is way past due. I've been meaning to put like a missing to show you that you're not done, but let me just tell you how you know if you're not done. When you are finished with your diagnostic test, you will know because for your overall level, it'll be just one number. If it's a range of numbers, like it is for this person, they are not done. So where it says step into the arena, like that area, it'll show you your overall level, and then it'll have other breakdowns. But if you keep seeing like ranges, you're not done. All right, so make sure if that is you, that takes priority. I can't have you working on a goal if you're not even at base level yet. You need to figure out what your base level is. So if that's the case, you need to be stepping back into the arena and working based off of that. Now, the paper you picked up today is going to be a project grade. It's going to be your tracker for your IXL goals. So at the end of the week, you will turn it into, well, here, I'll leave that in from the side, into this assignment link. You'll take a picture and upload it. And where you are getting the information to upload it is basically where you go for your diagnostic test. It gives you information that looks like this. So again, you are done with your diagnostic test when this is just one number, not like 700 to 800 or something like that. When it's one number is when you're done. If not, you need to step back into reviewing that and finish. So if you are done, that's that one number. I need you to fill in this first column of your tracker with all these different numbers, but based on your data. All right. So that'll be Monday because we did do some work in it yesterday. Or not necessarily yesterday. Some of you finished your diagnostic test yesterday. Today, you're officially starting more work in it. I know some of you took advantage of the extra credit opportunity offered to you over break. So I already jotted that down and entered that, at least in Schoology. I think I still need to upload it to Infinite Campus. But then now moving forward, now that I'm giving you time in class, and it might not be every single day that I give you time in class, but every day you are keeping track of what your levels are. The more you work on your recommended skills, the more your levels will increase. Ideally, by the end of our 2-week preparation for the test, you will be at 800 or higher. So these numbers, like the first number is kind of like your grade level. Obviously, for some of you, you might be wondering, why does it say that I'm a 3rd or 4th grade level when I have a good grade in math? Like, I have seen that for some people. They're high flyers in class, but still for some reason they're pretty low in this. It's based off your diagnostic test. So, I mean, it's just one test that you took within that platform. It doesn't actually know you, but the more work that you do in IXL, the more it'll make sense. Or like the more it'll level out to what your actual skills are. So just based off that diagnostic test, it's putting you at a certain grade level. You can see I blocked out the names and stuff. But you can see, like, here's what the rest of the people did. I have had some that were pretty high, like 9th or 10th grade. But ideally, by the end, you'd want to reach for at least 800, then I'd say that you're probably ready for it. Really, really ready for the ACT Aspire. Okay. Did I see a hand up? Did you have a question already? Okay. So right now, assuming that you are done with your diagnostic test, if you're not, then you need to go finish that. It'll tell you when you're done and it'll show you your overall level. But you need to fill out that first column. You need to put where your overall math level is right now at the very top, make sure your name's on it. You need to not lose this all week and you'll upload it on Schoology at the end of the week for a project break. Okay. So I'll give you a really good chunk of time today, probably in total about 40 minutes to work on this today on your recommended skills in IXL. And then probably the last 20 minutes or so, we'll change it up. We'll do a Kahoot to kind of like decompress. But if you're still not done with your diagnostic test, even then, I'm gonna have you sit out of the Kahoot and finish that. It's now been like 3 class periods that I've given people to work on it. And I've also been telling them to finish it at home and they're still not. Like, you need to do that. You're behind already. You need to get that finished so that we can start measuring your growth. Now, as far as how you get full points for your growth, like that'll just depend. I have access to see like how long you've spent in it, how many questions you've answered, right? Now, some people will grow faster than others. And then there are some people that work really hard, but they're just not growing as fast. I know you, I know what your abilities are and what you're capable of. I can adjust that level of growth, in my opinion, when I go look, but I can also see when you're not active in IXL. Or you're not using the time that I'm giving you in class to do it, I can see that on my end. So that's what I'm basing it off of. What else about that? So definitely don't have IXL open if you're not actively working on it, because what it thinks is that you're struggling with whatever question that is. And then it ends up feeding you more questions. So don't do that. It just ends up giving you more work to do in the end. If you're not actively working on it, close the window. And that way, when you are actively working on it, it's not taking you so long to get through the same amount of skills. Questions on anything about that? So I'd say at 12:50, we'll change gears, we'll do a Kahoot, but right now you have some time to start growing in IXL. So start working on those recommended skills, which you can click on from here, from this page. I know there's another page too, and I forget exactly where to go because I'm still new to IXL, but I know there's also a page where there will be like 5 skills at once, and you can pick whatever one you want to work on. Just work through those that I recommend based on your data. And if you need help, of course, you can ask me. They do have examples in the videos, but I'm here too. So there's that. So it wasn't there. Okay. Okay, good. So almost 100% accuracy, but do know that the test on your ACT Aspire won't necessarily be that easy. But this is supposed to help you with skills like maybe just jog your memory on some things. And you do need to be able to recognize when lines are parallel. Now, say this shows up as one of your constructed response style questions. What would you use to explain why they are parallel? So why are these lines parallel? How do you know that, Riley? So it looks like they're never going to intersect. Visually, it looks like that. What about them makes them not ever going to intersect? So, okay, other than that, they're straight lines, because I can have straight lines that do intersect at some point. So that wouldn't be the justification why, Yosina? Well, these do go on forever, you're right, but that's not what makes them parallel. Sorry, what was that? They are next to each other, but I could also draw other lines that are next to each other and they can still cross at some point. So what is characteristic of parallel lines? How can I know for sure that the image shown is in fact parallel line? Okay, I can draw lines that in my picture don't cross, but maybe eventually they will. Like if it has a little bit of a slant to it. Anyone else? What was that, Tiana? So what actually makes lines parallel is if they have the same slope. So that could be the notes that you jot down. So it's not because they're straight lines, it's not because they have arrows on the end of them that make them parallel. Parallel lines have the same slope and different y-intercepts. Because you can also have the same slope, I'm gonna put that in, same slope and different y-intercepts. So you could also have pairs of lines that are the same slope, same y-intercept, and they give you the same line when you graph it. So you also have to distinguish that they have different y-intercepts with the same slope. That is where they never touch, because their rate of change is the same for both of them. As one increases, so does the other at the same amount. That's why they're not touching. So be conscious of that when you're doing your justifications. For example, you could say there's no solution to that system because there's parallel lines with the same slope, different y-intercept, they will never intersect, or something to that effect. All right. So then the next one. So take notes as we go. I'll just keep an eye out as we go. So what type of lines are shown below? Two lines, parallel lines, perpendicular lines, or two rays? Okay, now, personally, in my opinion, there's not enough information to determine that they're perpendicular because they didn't label one of the angles like this. But they are trying to show you an example of perpendicular line, so that's why the answer is yellow. I didn't make it, I just borrowed it. But in my opinion, I would actually say this is two rays because you can't assume that things are drawn to scale. So that's why it might look visually that that's creating a right angle. How many degrees is a right angle? Okay, and we know that when it's a square, that's supposed to be like representing a 90-degree angle. So I think if they added that piece of information, I would confidently say that. But there's another way to tell that they're perpendicular lines without graphing. I'd be surprised if anybody knew it. It's more of a 10th grade geometry skill, but like I said, there is geometry on the ACT Inspired too. So do you guys know how to tell if they're perpendicular from the equations? All right. Let's see. How do I want to say this? Because keep in mind, unless you bring a graphing calculator with you, you're not going to be able to type in the equations into Desmos and see what they look like and assume that it's perpendicular. You could bring a graphing calculator and try, like, give it a best guess. If it looks like that, it's probably perpendicular. But if you are given the equations, you should be able to tell without graphing. If you remember that perpendicular lines have slopes that are negative reciprocals. Okay, perpendicular lines have slopes that are negative reciprocals. So what does that mean? I'll tell you. I'll give you a few examples. So say that one of the lines has a slope of 2/3. What does the word reciprocal mean? So when you flip the fraction, so what's the reciprocal of 2/3? Okay, now the negative part means that they have to be opposite signs. So if I'm trying to find the negative reciprocal of 2/3, the negative reciprocal would be a -3/2. So reciprocal is flipping it. The negative part means opposite sign. So a question that you might more actually be asked on your test is which of the following lines is perpendicular to this given line? And you would look for the slopes that would be negative reciprocals of each other. All right, so let me give you another one. Don't shout out the answer, but think about what the negative reciprocal would be of -7. Just think about it. One of my slopes is -7. A line perpendicular to that line would have a slope of what? You can tell me now. Not -1/7. 1/7. So they always have to be opposite signs. So if one's negative, the negative reciprocal should be positive. And then reciprocal is you flipping the fractions. So if your slope is an integer, remember, all integers are over 1 if it's not written. So that's where you flip it and change the signs. All right, I'm going to give you another one to think about. So if one of my slopes is a positive 1/3, think about what the negative reciprocal would be. All right, what's my negative reciprocal of 1/3? -3/1 or just -3. All right, so good. So say, I don't know, I was given a pair of equations. I know that these are negative reciprocals of each other. I know that these create perpendicular lines. The y-intercepts don't matter for your perpendicular lines. We just care about the slope being negative reciprocals. Questions on that? All right, so then on to the next one. Okay, what type of triangle is represented? Scaling, normal, equilateral, isosceles. Okay, so equilateral is correct. Again, will the ACT Aspire directly ask you something like that? No, but you need to know that vocabulary because it will probably show up in a problem. Like, for example, it could say, given an equilateral triangle, what do we know about equilateral triangles? All sides are the same, and that's shown by these tick marks. If it's the same tick mark on different sides, that shows that they're the same length. If they wanted it to represent different lengths, then they would do something like that, where it's like, now these two are equal and this one's different. They don't necessarily draw things to scale, so it could look equilateral, but then it's actually not, depending on the tick marks, depending on what information they give you. But if they give you this with the tick marks, yeah, equilateral. They're also showing you that the angles are congruent. So how many degrees do triangles add up to? 180 degrees. So then if they say, given this equilateral triangle, what's the measurement of angle A? 60, because if they're all the same angle and there's 180 total, then each one must be 60. So just things like that, they would probably ask you, and then maybe ask you to justify it. Another thing they could ask is, we have an equilateral triangle with a side length of 2x. What's the perimeter? How do you find the perimeter of any shape? Add all the sides. So then if it's an equilateral triangle and I don't know what an equilateral triangle is, then I'm kind of inhibited. But if I know that equilateral triangles have it where all sides are the same, and I'm asked to find the perimeter, what's 2x plus 2x plus 2x? 6x. The perimeter of this random example I made would be 6x. So that's why we're reviewing these, because if you don't know them, then you're kind of stuck. All right, so on to the next. All right, what is a five-sided closed figure called? Okay, pentagon is correct. So penta means 5. What does quadrilateral mean? 4 sides. Decagon, anyone know how many sides that is? 10. Decagon is 10. Hexagon is how many? 6. What is a? An octagon, right? Okay. So remember those, because maybe they don't give you a picture in that problem. Also, what does it mean when it says like a regular pentagon? If it says that we're talking about a regular pentagon, what do we know about that pentagon other than the 5 sides? It is closed, but that's not what makes it regular. Would you say, Micah? Okay, that is a regular one. If it says something like a regular pentagon, Riley? All the sides are the same length. So if it says regular hexagon, you know, that is 6 sides, but they're all the same. Regular decagon, 10 sides, but they're all the same if it's unrighted. Okay. All right. This probably will be the last one. And then we'll finish this Kahoot a different day. All right, what's a 6-sided closed figure called? So make sure you don't lose your tracker. Always kind of keeping an eye out for those that participated in the Kahoot, so you can hang on to your Kahoot paper. Okay, so hexagon, we just talked about it. I'm glad everyone that answered got it right. We'll take this up a different day. The winner can come get a prize. The grade is 55 prize.